Alright, so rounding. We've talked about two strategies when rounding. One strategy is using the number line, which I do like using the number line to begin with because it gives you some kind of awareness of the numbers and the order of numbers and why a number is closer to a number. So one thing that I want you to think about that we practiced over and over on the green sheet, and we also practiced on Rounding Rodeo yesterday, was that we started by writing the value. We write the value, and that would be in your decimal form.
Can we write in marker?
You can do whatever you want. If you want to write in marker, that's fine, but you need to stay with me because this video and these notes are not going to take very long. Okay? So after we write the after we write the number in decimal form, the next thing that we wanted to do would be to label those places. And labeling those places helps us determine what number we're going to be rounding to. So we want to label our places. Sometimes when I refer to that, you might hear me say this is our PVC, our place value chart. Now, one thing that we did on the green sheet that we did not really have to worry about on Rounding Rodeo was the fact that on the green sheet, we wrote the fraction equivalent, and we also shaded our model to show that equivalency. So if you have a model, or if it's, a good practice is to go ahead and write that decimal as a fraction. So I'm going to put that as something that you might want to think about. Shade model. And I put if needed, because we won't always have models, but you're going to see a lot of models in 5th grade, and so the more comfortable you are with those models, the better it is for you. And also, writing the fraction. We want to be really comfortable with writing the fraction value. Then we simply want to circle the place value we're rounding. In 5th grade, we're responsible for rounding to the nearest whole number, the nearest tenth, the nearest hundredth. So typically we just stay with those values. We don't do a whole lot of thousands, like thousands of that's just kind of, we will do that when we're adding, subtracting, probably more when we're multiplying whole numbers or even dividing whole numbers. Okay? So the number line is the next piece. If you're choosing to use a number line, this is where I see some boys and girls get a little confused, like, what do I do? So, of course, you want to draw your number line. And then you want to establish your endpoints. So if I were going to give you the number 2 and 715 thousandths. And I wanted to round that number to the nearest tenth. If I were following my processes, after I write my value, I would want to label my places. So what place is the 2 in?
The ones.
It's in the ones place. So I'm going to start by labeling the ones. What place is the 7 in? Yes?
The tenths.
It's in the tenths. And the 1? Hundredths. And finally the 5 is in the thousandths. It's kind of crammed. Okay? And if I want to round to the nearest tenth, what number would I circle now? JJ, what number would we circle if we wanted to round to the nearest tenth? We would circle the 7. So now we're to that number line piece. Gonna make my endpoint. And this seems to be the scariest part for 5th graders because they're not sure what to put as the end for the endpoint. So the best way I know to make this easy for you is you take anything in front of your circle and you keep it. You're going to keep the 2, you're going to write the decimal, and you're going to keep the 7. And since we're rounding to the nearest tenth, we have to think about only increasing the tenths place for our endpoint. So what number would come after 7 tenths? Kenzie. 8 tenths. So we're going to have 2 and 8 tenths. After we establish our endpoints, we need to have our halfway point. The best way to do that is to simply add a 0. What is between 70 hundredths and 80 hundredths? Brent. 75 hundredths. So we're going to keep that 2, and our midpoint would be 75 hundredths. If we're only thinking about 71 hundredths, is that going to come before my midpoint or after my midpoint? Andy? Before. It's going to end up right over here, which means that this number is going to go back to 2.7. And so when we round 2 and 715 thousandths to the nearest tenth, that answer will be 2.7. Are there any questions?